My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The goal horn applies because the Wild actually won a game, outscored an opponent last night. First win on this road trip. What was it, 3-1 with an empty net goal against the Rangers? Let's just start with this, AJ. That's how it's done. Like, I liked this game. You know, third period, there was a little bit of a disappearance, but the first period was outstanding. I guess my question is this: where has this been? And how do you bottle it up? And I understand that there probably is going to be a little bit of pushback saying they still really only scored 2 goals. Well, you're not wrong about that. We'll talk about that. But nonetheless, I liked the performance last night.
Yeah, I mean, that's more of what I expected from this team and what we should have seen the past 2 games over the weekend. My fear is that this Rangers team coming into tonight, Judd, was on the precipice of setting the league record for longest goal drought at home to start a season in NHL history. Had they gone like 7 minutes and 20-something seconds scoreless in last night's game, they would have set that record. But happy for them because Dr. Wild, Dr. Minnesota is here to cure it, any and all diseases. So they score right off the bat. But the Rangers are not that great of a team, so I fear like that's a product of what we saw last night. If we see a more established and more of what we saw last night against New Jersey, a team that I actually think is going to be really good this year, then it's like, that's very encouraging. But what I will say, of the 2 even strength goals, 2 even strength goals, that's fantastic. You didn't have to rely on your power play. You didn't have to rely going on the road to Madison Square Garden and having 6, 7, 8 power play chances. That was fantastic. But your 2 stars come through. I think Matt Boldy and Kirill Kaprizov, obviously Kirill had the empty netter, but they drove the play most of the night despite not really getting rewarded on the score sheet for it. I mean, the zone entry was a lot better. The sustained pressure was a lot better. And that's what I feel like a lot of their game relied around was it's kind of the one and done opportunities, kind of the one night stand offensive chances where you enter the zone, you get a shot. Well, that shot gets deflected to the corner, turned over, and now we're already back on defense. They entered the zone. There was times where, you know, if you were on your phone paying attention, you looked at people like, oh, they're on a power play. No, they're on even strength. They're just working the offensive zone that well. So that brand of hockey is exactly what I think the Minnesota Wild should lean on. Even though maybe some of the shots and scoring chances were lower percentage, that builds up and it adds the pressure. And it in the long run, over the course of 60 minutes, it makes you look like a better team and ends up making you the better team. And then you get rewarded for that. So well-deserved win by the Wild last night, a good step back on the right track, and hopefully that continues.
So there were a few things that stood out, and then we'll get to some individual performances, which were important. There were a few things that stood out to me, and one was I thought just simply they took some lower percentage shots, but I felt like they drove the net.
Yes.
And that's something, and so what frustrates me a little bit there is that's just effort. Like this team, other than Boldy and Kaprizov, who can get away with a little bit more because they're really, really good players, there's nobody on this team who doesn't need to drive the net and to be it. Like if you don't leave the game sore and beat up, you didn't play right. If you thought that, oh man, I'm just going to score from this angle or something. Kaprizov, yes. Boldy, probably. Everybody else, no. So I thought last night was sort of a product also of that they just did what you have to do, which, by the way, was this game 6 or 7?
That should have been game 7, right?
Okay. Which, by the way, in game 7, shouldn't have to be talked about. Like, that should be a given. It's game 7. You're fresh. Hines, so on the telecast last night, at one point, LaPanta, I think it was, said, or Gorg, Hines wants the guys to fight for space inside in the offensive zone. And he, told them this. You got to tell them this? Like, fighting for space inside the offensive zone. Again, if you don't leave the game hurting, you didn't play correctly. So I think last night, to be honest, there are some things that are not going to be repeatable every single game, and I get that. It's a long season, okay? But last night should not be the exception. Yep. Last night should set the tone for how this team plays. You recall a year ago, choose your heart. I think you talked about that. Well, your heart it's very difficult. the game is not supposed to be fun. Like, far too often, guys play like this is supposed to be fun. Like, I'm really skilled. Well, yes. And the one thing last night that I think kept the score close was, and it's not surprising, Shesterkin in goal for the Rangers is so good. So he actually kept it tight. But I don't think it should be that much of an ask. Like, you should never have to show film before Game 7 and say, okay, look at what we're not doing here as far as effort. Like, I get schemes come and go and like things change there. I totally get that. But, if you are Marcus Johansson, who made a nice play last night on the goal that we'll talk about that won the game ultimately, Tarasenko at this point, Foligno, Hinostroza, Tyler Pitlick, Trennan, who made just a god-awful defensive zone pass last night. It damn near cost him. But anyway, if you are those guys, if you are anybody, you got to be in there. You got to be in there constantly. And I felt like they did go to that. I did feel like they went to the net last night. They didn't get rewarded with a bunch of goals, but it definitely sets a tone.
It does. And I mean, that was when they were dominating play at home against the Kings, and when they were dominating play last night, it's a lot of getting guys to the front. This is what Jesse brought up, that Marco Rossi mentioned after one of the losses at home, which was, what do you have to do to find more even strength scoring? And it's get low, get to the net. Well, guess what? They're getting low, they're getting to the net, and then it's dependent on the defenseman or the winger up top. Can you get the shot to the front?
Yep.
And this is not a brand new way to play hockey. This is a tried and true successful way to win hockey games, which is, it might not be the most flattering, but also, besides your top line, it's really not that flattering of a team. So you have to play dirty, ugly, gritty hockey, and getting to the front, getting shots on goal, and then just hoping that you can be the garbage man on Tuesday morning, shovel it in.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. So, and that's what they were attempting to do last night, even though it didn't actually work out as much as you would have expected. They, for the most part, and we were texting about this.
Yeah.
They played well enough to, I think, win that game 4 or 5-1 without an empty netter.
Yes.
Like they generated enough chances to deserve more goals.
Yes. You never watched, in watching that entire game last night when it remained close, and the Rangers almost did. I mean, Gustavsson made some great saves. Again, he's been fantastic. Yes. But you never watched that game as the Rangers looked like they were about to potentially tie the score and say, you know what, the Wild deserves to lose. Like, there's been plenty of times where I've said they don't deserve this game. Last night, you said they deserve to win, and they did win. So interesting. So let's get to some individual performances. Interesting last night that Marco Rossi did not play. So he blocked a shot against the Flyers. It was obviously very painful. He might have blocked 2, but he definitely blocked 1 in the first period. He continued to play. My guess is he took the skate boot off after the game, and his foot blew up. His ankle blew up, and he couldn't get the damn boot back on. So, but the good side, that's the bad thing. The good side is Danila Yurov then steps in, and Hines actually puts him on what I would consider the second, not the third line, which I loved. He puts him with Tarasenko and Johansson. And to go back to the type of goals that they have to pursue, the second goal, the goal that won the game was very, very much, I think, a goal that Johansson wraps it around. Now, as you pointed out, he did retreat immediately. He needs to go to the net, but Tarasenko had gone to the net, and Yurov is right there to clean the puck up. Just as importantly, probably, no, not probably, it is just important. Yurov won the face-off to set that whole sequence up. I thought last night was another reason why John Hines has to play the kids. Like, did you see that kid's confidence? It went through the roof. It went through the freaking roof. Why? Because he got a chance. I keep reading that when Yurov showed up for the showcase, so the first thing he played in right before training camp was the Tom Curver showcase. I keep reading that Yurov would look like a deer in the headlights. Well, you know why? Because he was new. He was new to the country. He didn't know what to expect. He was a deer in the headlights. How do you get through that? You allow him to play. And he played last night. I'm not saying he was perfect, but I am saying that is, if there's an exhibit 1 for why these kids need to play and not on the fourth line, I thought last night was the perfect thing. And now I want to see how you keep that kid in a top 9 role going forward until he proves that he just should not have it.
Yeah, I mean, this is about as, blatant of evidence as to why they need to, as could be. Buium, I think on the first goal, you could, frankly, the pairing, I want to say him and Spurgeon last night at time when they were out on the ice together, that there was some lapses there, but you're playing him. And granted, I think we touched on this on yesterday's show, which is he's too hot of a prospect in the media's eyes to where they can't send him down or bench him more or give him less time. Like, he is the guy they have to lean on. Danila Yurov, holy crap, what happens when you give a guy top 9 minutes just because? Well, guess what? He performs because he's an exciting prospect. This guy has at least some confidence because he hasn't been in the doghouse and up and down and all this stuff. Like, his slow adjustment to a new continent is understandable at that age, right? Last night, you see exactly why he deserves to get top 9 minutes because 1, he's working hard. 2, he's going to the dirty areas. And frankly, he just kind of looks like he belongs in the NHL. He's kind of got a little bit of the swagger of I should be here, but also I'm exciting. I know what I should be doing. I really like his game. I don't know if I got some responses after the goal on Twitter last night from some listeners that he should be one of the top 2 centers on this team, even if Marco Rossi is healthy. And then Eriksson bumps down. I would say let's slow the roll a little bit there. I think Eriksson is still a fantastic player, but it's top 9 for sure. There's no reason he should be on the 4th line the way that he's been playing here through the first 7. Well, I guess he missed the first game or 2 since being in the lineup. There's no reason to take him out. There's no reason to send him down. I feel like of the mistakes he's made, it's been few and far between. And a lot of the positives are showing that he is going to be a player that once he does continue to grow, because that's what happens when you give guys playing time in meaningful situations, they're going to continue to grow. And that beanstalk is going to keep climbing and climbing and climbing. All of a sudden you have a pretty good player on your hands that you can rely on each and every night. So wonderful how that happens when you give a guy some playing time.
Okay. So hopefully it's soon, when Marco Rossi comes back, I think I know what to do. Okay. So it's going to be Rossi or Ek on the first line. That's not going to change for now. Now, I would be curious long-term to see Yurov with Kaprizov, but that's a whole different topic.
It'd be fun to see.
It would be. But I would say this. Choose one of those guys for your first line. So the other guy, well, depending on how this Tarasenko, Johansson, Yurov thing works out, I would still technically consider Ek or Rossi my number 2, and I think that Yurov bumps Hartman to a wing, and then if you want, Hartman can still take faceoffs. There's no rule against that, right? So
if anything, that lets Yurov be a little more aggressive on the dot because then he can just get kicked out.
Yeah,
if
2 centers.
If he jumps, and then Hartman comes in, and that actually opens the door for more defensive zone wins if you want to start them there.
Yep, and so right now, like last night, you had Hinostroza started the game with Hartman and Foligno. I think that got juggled again. Well, they were playing Johansson, it felt like, in the third period a ton. Yeah. That they clearly love him. I don't understand that completely, but that's beside the point right now because he did make a play last night. So anyway, but I don't think it's hard to move. Hartman wouldn't be bumping somebody who deserves a winger spot. So I think Yurov, I mean, I do want to see Tarasenko, Johansson, and Yurov after they played last night. I do want to see them left together, but I think that there's a way to do this with Hartman just going to a wing. And I love your point, which is, okay, he can still take faceoffs, and if you're aggressive in the dot and you get kicked out, Hartman's good there. And if there's a faceoff on the strong side for one, they can take the faceoff. So I actually think that works. But Yurov, to me, has shown enough now where there's enough jam there to his game and confidence there that he needs to continue to play. And the 4th line needs to be, I mean, Ben Jones, yes. Trennan, yes. Tyler Pitlick, yes. Yes, John Hines, you've got that right. Those are 4th line players. They are on the 4th line for a reason. But, if and when, unless he's traded, Ogren comes back, no 4th line. It's a waste of everyone's time. And Yurov should have seen his last shift on the 4th line unless he absolutely starts to bust.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, what we're seeing is a guy that I think has earned top 9 minutes, even after just a handful of games. Not to bang the drum on another Russian who used to play here, but Marat Husnudinov was a 4th line guy on this team last year, He
Start of
just
the
was
year?
this. He was the second line wing, and granted, the Boston Bruins are not a star-studded team anymore.
Right,
But he
right.
was the second line winger for that team the other night because they're giving him more opportunities and trusting him. Does he deserve it? That's a conversation for another day.
Sure.
But when fully healthy, I think right now, based on the play that we're seeing, Danila Yurov is your third line wing or third line center, no matter what. Like Eck and Rossi, you can adjust them however you want. 1-2.
Right.
Ryan Hartman goes to the wing, and whether he moves down Tarasenko, if for some reason, I don't think they will, but even though all the talk about, well, he's got to earn his spot on the second line, I'm pretty sure it's all but given. Ryan Hartman moves down to the second or the third line with Yurov, and then that's a 1-2 center punch if you want for faceoffs. Marcus Foligno can stay on the left wing there. And I mean, when you think about it, Matt Zuccarello comes back. That creates a problem on the right side, because does Matt Boldy stay at the top, or does he now shift to the second line, and how that adjusts? And that's a while down the road still. But I think also, because people are bound to get more hurt, I really think that a trade for another winger is probably in the future for this team. The fact that they still just cling to the Marcus Johansson bus is I struggle to understand it, because I know he made a play last night, but even on that play, there's maybe I'm just looking for nitpicking, but stay in the dirty area. You work so hard, and then you just slowly coast back in a way and let the other people on your line do the work. He does like 80%, and then he just stops, and that's whatever.
He's also going through a phase where I guarantee you within the past week or so he got a talking to. This happens this in a different context. This is the Hartman thing, which is you find God for a week or a month, and you either get a talking to, or the league suspends you for 8 games, and now you're like, I am changing everything about my life. And so the Johansson thing I don't think keeps up. And look, he's too easy ordinarily to get off the puck. His puck possession ability in his own zone is he can skate the puck. But anyway, I'm with you. I think if this team wants to be taken seriously, even with Zuccarello back, I think you need one more winger who can score, because the reality is you just don't have that. Boldy can. Zuccarello, I think, can. Now, we don't know when he comes back how he looks. I would not be surprised if once Zuccarello comes back, Boldy moves to the left wing on the second line. With that being said, too, I'm not so sure that you couldn't bump Tarasenko to the third line pretty easily at some point here. So the reality is, I'm with you completely. I think that you're going to need another winger who can score some goals, and not just a quad A guy, a guy that can actually come in and score some goals. Let's get to the defense last night. Second consecutive game he got to play. Oh my God. David Jiricek played. Your thoughts, because I continue to see things I like about his game. Might not analytically be a darling, but there's enough there that I am very enamored with continuing to give him chances. We can nitpick his game completely and say he needs to go to Iowa and come back as Zdeno Chara, but that's not going to happen.
It was potentially just more beneficial matchups for him. But I felt like last night when he was on the ice, the team played better defensively than they did the other night over the weekend. He looked a little more calm, but also, like you said, the points of his game that I liked are he brings a little bit of physicality, and there is definitely the offensive-minded spurts that you can see. But I think the defensive aspects that him and Middleton actually together looked like last night, it looked like they didn't just hodgepodge together a defensive pairing and say go out there and play like 12 to 14 to 18 minutes or whatever it was. They looked a little more solid out there and safer. And granted, I think at times it's like, oh, okay, they're already going off, but I didn't notice them because they did their job of going out there, just not allowing any major big chances. But they looked like a more well-rounded pairing last night than they did a couple days ago. Once again, to harp on the Yurov thing, crazy what happens when a guy gets a little more time. And granted, it's his second game back, but if he continues to play and you give him time, he's going to get confidence. And this guy who was drafted 6th overall a handful of years ago, he might, crazy to think, might rise to the occasion. You don't just a team doesn't take a guy that early for no reason, but definitely still some lapses as you're going to have with any young player. But you're going through that with Zeev, you're going to see that with Yurov, you're going to see that with Jiricek. You just have to eat it and move forward and hope. And I think you're going to see that the pros outweigh the cons in the long run, and eventually a lot of the cons probably dissipate and go away and fade away into the darkness as the better player comes out of their shell.
Yeah, and the thing that intrigues me, I mean, that size. So that size intrigues me. He definitely has. So he definitely lacks some he's got some defensive shortcomings, no question.
For sure.
But what intrigues me is his offensive abilities. And he's got in the offensive zone, what I like is he's got some sense to him. Like he's got hockey sense to him. He makes some plays offensively that I'm like, oh, that's a nice play. Now, Zeev is Jiricek on steroids. Like he is better. He's just outstanding. Also makes mistakes defensively. But it feels like it's been a while since we've had a couple of defensemen who, when they have the puck in the offensive zone, you're intrigued. To your point from I think it was last week, Zeev gets pucks through that a lot of guys don't, and it looks simple when he does it, but it's not. And so now there's and to me, to go back to what we talked about at the start of the show, if we're going to talk about going to the front of the net, well, the puck does have to be there, right? If you've got defensemen who can get the puck through and create rebounds and second chances and opportunities, well, that's a win. And those two guys, I think, can do it. And so that's where, like, we could talk about, well, but in the defensive zone, Zach Bogosian knows so much more. And he does, and that's awesome. He's been playing a long time. But I don't think it's a fluke you played the way that you did last night with some of the guys that you played. I don't think that's, oh, wow. I think it's one, a lot of guys had to get chewed out, which is too bad. But I also think it's when you play Yurov high, when you play Booyum like they are, which is awesome, and that's been consistent. Jiricek, what I like about that is you're also setting a tone where they're trying to grab an opportunity, and it did feel like there was way more I think, bite to that game, which I thought was important. And compared to last Friday in Washington, it looked like a completely different team.
Yeah. I just once again, I fear that it's a stern talking to mixed with a team that you should look like you dominate. So there needs to be consistency, and that's what it's going to have to come down to be. But they looked like a more well constructed team, and when they play the game of just it's mainly just the other really quick too. The other thing I wanted to give praise to for the Jiriceks and the Booyums, they maybe turn the puck over at times, but they also, I think they look comfortable when the zone keeps when the puck is like, it looks like it's drifting out. They're comfortable retrieving that very quickly and efficiently, but also it's not like they rush a pass that immediately turns the play over and now the Rangers are coming back the other way. I don't know. They look like they just are able to calmly survey what's going on, slow the game down for a few seconds, and then realize, okay, maybe I do just need to chip it in low, or maybe Matt Boldy's low on the wing and I can feed it right on his tape, and all of a sudden we're going to reset. And yeah, to your point of it's been a while since we've had that on the ice for the Minnesota Wild. It's really refreshing that it's not just, you're one guy, like you're one Matt Dumba who's on the ice one out of every 3 D pairings. Now you have 2 guys, presuming that Jiricek's able to stay in the lineup, and not that Brock Faber can't do that or Jonas Brodin can't do that either. But I would say those guys I applaud more for their defensive capabilities, whereas these guys you expect offense, and I think they're showing you that. So Jiricek should be continuing to elevate that game, and the size he brings for that pairing is just so nice.
Yeah, it's funny in watching those two, especially Zeev, but in watching those two, and look, they're really, really good at what they do. But when you watch Faber and Brodin, then you realize like how good they are defensively, but how they're not even close to there is no, and the power play has scuffled. I don't think they have a power play goal on this trip, if I'm not mistaken.
Not yet.
But anyway, when you watch the power play now with Zeev, right? Like the difference between, and this is not a knock against Brock, because Brock does a lot of things really well. But when you go back to last year when they asked Brock to lead the power play, the first power play, and you watch that power play and this one, the difference is obvious. Like it's how it's being quarterbacked, which is, credit to this guy for being so good with the puck. And it's weird too, because, Zeev can be a liability defensively, but you know what you never feel like? You never feel like he just screwed up and his head is spinning around. Like, oh my God, I screwed up. What should I do? What should I do? Like the way that he handles himself with the puck. He can give you the puck, but he's going to sort of do it on his terms, if that makes any sense at all. In sort of a positive, cocky way. He's not, it never looks like, oh my God, he just doesn't belong here. It always looks like, yeah, he screwed up. And he knows he screwed up. And I think sometimes he just goes and gets the puck back too. He does. There's an element to this. So correct me if I'm missing someone. I feel like there's an element to this that would have been, and I think ultimately this kid's going to be a better defender, but ultimately if the Wild had hung on to Brent Burns, I sort of see that same type of sort of positive cockiness. And it's like, okay, some of this is not great, but you're always doing it with a conviction. And what you do well, you do really, really well.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I think probably Burns is going to have. Not going to, we know what he does, but he has more of a physical aspect to his game, whereas it's more of finesse, I think, for Zeev. 100%. But you're on track for sure with the
offensive side.
Oh yeah, it's dazzling. Like you said, I mean, when he does turn the puck over, it's more of, okay, I guess I have to give it to you because he'll scramble, he'll do what he can, and he's turned the puck over, then also put out his own fire almost immediately, where he backtracks, and
that's what I'm saying.
Like he wins foot races too, which I'll give him credit for.
Great skater.
If you're going to turn the puck over, you got to be able to get back, and so it works out more than enough. But yeah, I mean, this is just to restate what I've mentioned a handful of times already, which is you just got to keep giving him minutes. And if they seem dead set on giving him minutes at least, which is a relief. So I don't have to worry about him, third line getting buried. And now all of a sudden now we're shortening the bench and all this stuff. You'd expect by midseason, he looks like a much more well-rounded player. And I think that's going to benefit the Wild in the long run.
Absolutely. So AJ, I'm on the SeatGeek app right now, and I'm checking around for tickets. I'm seeing Ravens Vikings tickets. I'm seeing plenty of stuff. And guess what? The Wolves are about to start on Sunday. The Wild we do a show on. They obviously are now in full swing. And I want to tell you about SeatGeek because you're going to find the best deal on tickets with SeatGeek. More than 35 million downloads. SeatGeek is the top-rated ticketing app. We're talking sports, we're talking concerts, festivals, and more. Find their tickets at SeatGeek. If your team is playing, guess what? SeatGeek is the place to get your tickets. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know that you're getting a good deal. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. Use the code JUDD10, JUDD10, for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo code JUDD, JUDD10. Check out SeatGeek. If you are looking to go to a game, they are the place to go to. Just check out that app. Filip Gustavsson, we touched on it briefly, but man, was he good again last night. And I mean, in Washington, he was phenomenal. That was probably a 7 or 8 goal game against. But I thought he made a few saves. And it's funny, too, because he went through long stretches, gave up that first goal. The Wild actually outshot the Rangers 17-5 in the first period. He went through some stretches without seeing shots. The one that comes to mind, the Zibanejad save he made was out front was just absolutely great. But he looks dialed in, and I think the one consistent thing that we can say through now 7 games is the goaltending. To me, I really like what we're seeing from a goaltending standpoint.
That was going to be one of the first things I said, which is, I mean, watching last night, I don't think it's been a while, and maybe not even a while, because I felt pretty confident at times last season with how Fleury was playing. But this is now such stability, I think, year to year from this Wild squad through at least 7 games. It's a relatively small sample size when you're looking at it season wide, but they look solid. Your starter looks like I mean, he's kind of like a coffee maker, just automatic. You're going to set him for a time, 6 a.m., beep, 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 starts dripping coffee, and he's going to be ready to go. He is going to be able to long stretches. And that's such a tough thing for a goalie, to my understanding, which is when your team is good and you go 5 minutes and don't have to make a stop, or even, sometimes, 10 plus, and then you get that one big chance. It's almost like you're seeing, deer in the headlights from the comparison earlier. He was locked in, and that Zibanejad stop, I think, cemented a lot of any questions still left up in the air for me about his play. I mean, he's good. We know he's good when he's on his game. And the fact that he was able to come up big for that type of stop, where defensive laps right in front of him, you have Matt Boldy and I want to say Brock Faber not picking up a guy after a quick transition, which is a weird sentence to say. But Zibanejad gets right in his kitchen and he makes a huge glove save to preserve the lead. He's doing it night in, night out so far. His record and I think box stat scores look poorer than they probably should, just because the team play in front of him hasn't been as great for a few of those starts.
Agreed.
But when you look at just the isolated player, he's been, once again, the reason that he's keeping the team in games. He's giving them a chance to win. He's putting them in a position.
All right, sir. Great stuff. So we will be back tomorrow, of course, with Jesse Pierce for the Wednesday edition of Judd's Hockey Show. I'm Judd. He's AJ. We'll talk to you later.